what if I told you the only tool that you needed to get logon credentials was Google search? On today's episode, we're going to get into the strangely legal world of Google Dorks. Let's get into it. Welcome to Cyber Studies. If this is your first time here, my name is Giovanni. So Google incorporated these really cool search operators, these advanced search operators called Google Dorks or Google hacking. We'll kind of get into that part later. But basically, this is something that Google had made for higher fidelity search results. And over time, people were able to take advantage of this indexer and get some really cool stuff out of things maybe they shouldn't have. So we're going to dive into this and see exactly how you could take something that was made for good and maybe see some publicly available stuff that shouldn't be. So without further ado, let's get in there and see what we got, shall we? So before we start slapping some keyboards, I really want to preface that everything that we're doing today will be legal activity. However, there is a very thin line. You will be exposed to things like username and passwords to these file servers. There will be webcams to places that are, who knows where they are, right? So while we are able to gather information and gather this intel, utilizing it is the part that can get us in a lot of trouble. Just be mindful that whenever you are doing anything here, this is all for educational purposes. This is not a step-by-step on how to perform illegal activities. So now we can get into it.
All right, so we made it back to the desktop. I'm gonna go ahead and launch one of my web browsers, and I just have Microsoft Edge. Anything will work. It does not have to be Google Chrome. Now, we are on google.com. This is the search engine that we're talking about tonight. And we're just gonna throw something in here real quick. I love Chipotle. Chipotle, don't get mad. So basically, we just did a lazy Google search. We just threw a string in there, and anything that Google deems relative, it's going to output to us, the user. Now, as we know, search engines are bias. They have sponsors, ads, everything kind of moves up the way. The internet is very vast, a lot of information. So this is we're grateful to have search engines because it really cleans up the clutter. Now, you're asking yourself, okay, you brought me to Google, I can put some quotation marks on a string and find literal results. Like, I'm a hacker too. So let's dive into these ones. So the first one I'm going to show you is Cite. In Cite, what this does is it says, hey, anything that shows a domain, whether it's a domain, subdomain of chipotle.com, output. So we went from, 37 million results to 39,000 right off the back, just saying, hey, I want it to actually relate to Chipotle. Just that little string right there cleaned it up so much more, higher fidelity. Now, this isn't really anything fancy. We can, hey, we can go look at chipotle.com, the same exact one. We can start doing things like in text and start tying these together. I'm just going to say taco. Why not? We now took our search from 37 million down to 77. and this may not be exciting right now because we're literally searching tacos on chipotle.com, but you have to think critically here. How can you modify this to where you can do some cool leet hagzor stuff? You'll see, and I'll show you in a minute. But you can start making things like scrapers, where you go into the internet, you start finding these things, and you start just pulling content out of sites that maybe were accidentally spilled. They weren't intentionally trying to put things out there, right? So let's just say we wanted to do some reconnaissance. We wanted to find some stuff. This is really cool because you can go through and say, hey, we're going to take this out. And we're going to say, let's do in title. And then we'll say, yeah, there's a good one right there. Beautiful. Index of. Now, this is a common way of displaying information on servers. And what we can do is we can do in title and then in text, the body, and we'll say FTP. Let's see what we get. Cool. So FTP, if you're not familiar, is File Transfer Protocol. FTP server, things that we're going to be hosting some files on. And then the title is going to be index of. This is how a lot of these servers are set up. And if it shows up on here, more than likely does not require logon credentials. So we have to be careful here. We have some, NASA.gov, NOAA.gov. I don't know what this one is. So basically we have that index of, which was the title that we searched off of. We said in the body of this entire, this page, this HTML, find FTP. And that's what we have right here. Now, as I mentioned in this little preface here, everything that we're doing right now is completely legal. It's open to the public. It's public facing. It's not behind a password or username. Think if you are downloading, if you are inputting, if you're interacting with this, where it's saying, "Hey, I'm changing what is currently public to a unpublic asset." That's the line. So if you were to say, hey, I did a Google search on an image search, right? You see something on the thumbnails. You're not interacting with it. You're just seeing it, right? When you start diving into that website, you start pulling that thing out. The interaction is the portion that you have to be really careful about. You need written consent when you start doing this kind of stuff, or else you are illegally entering something you shouldn't. You do not have rightful access to get into. So let's get out of there real quick. So there's just a bunch of stuff you can do here. This is just a real quick, off the cuff. Where we can really get dangerous with all this is the Google hacking database. I think it's just GHDB, but we'll see here. Yeah, GHDB. So this is really cool because this is like an open source repository of other people's searches. It's nothing more than just the searching language, the string, if you will. They give you a little bit of a definition, kind of your categories. No, there's some kind of lame stuff in here, it's very use case specific. But one thing that I always like to show folks when I'm trying to express the importance of dorking, let's do Nessus. So if you're familiar, Nessus is this vulnerability scanner. It goes through your environment. It tells you where there's holes and that kind of stuff. Now, this is not good. This is not good to have, facing on the public internet, and here's why. So we can click here, and this will basically just throw it into our search bar for us. Now, as I mentioned, these are vulnerability reports. This is not good because we can basically dive into any of these PDFs. I don't know, let's just find one. Music Tribe. Maybe this is a good one. Maybe it's not. Okay, so this is a NetSparker report. So this will basically say, hey, here are some of the things they've identified, some confirms, highs, criticals, lows. If you've ever been part of a meeting and they do these vulnerability scans, they'll say, hey, this is what's wrong, right? It's up to you guys if you want to fix it. I cannot confirm or deny what folks do with these reports, right? This would be a beautiful starting point if you were to do any sort of, look for any attack vectors, looking for any sort of vulnerabilities, any holes in their fence. This is where it gets really useful and helpful, right? If you've ever been on TikTok, there's that cliche, where is it at? Is it in title? Webcam XP5, I think is what it is. Basically what happens is people have these IP cameras that are on the internet, and they're not secured by a username password. It's not behind a portal. I'll be frank, I think a lot of this is just kind of like vanity, like, ooh, like I can see what's going on here. We're just clicking on a random one. I have no idea what's behind here. oh, it's me. It's gonna whip around. It's gonna be my my camera, and we're not gonna push any of these buttons because I don't know if that does anything. Let's pick a better one. Come on, yeah, live demos, right? All right, so here's a boardwalk in some sort of not in the U.S. Start digging some other stuff here. So this is just one of those little cliche like party tricks. I can't imagine this is like crazy, useful. You're not gonna bump into like a target, like, oh, we're gonna break into this building, let's look around their cameras. By simply doing webcam XP5, you're not gonna land on anything specific. But you get the gist, right? So you can kind of, same one, okay. You can see some of these little things where they're on the internet, they're readily available. Lastly, let's do what was the syntax on that one? There it is. All right, cool. So basically we said, hey, in the title we're gonna do an index of a band, sure, the Beatles. And what this will do is, if you click it, that's it. Those are the MP3s for this. Now, obviously, this violates copyright, protection and stuff. So if you are downloading these, you are stealing from the artist. This is technically illegal. Not a crazy, big thing, but it is what it is, right? And who's to say those are even the MP3s? You're downloading these at your own risk, and those could be viruses. Those could be malware, and you'd be infecting yourself, and you get what you deserve, right? So, anyways, let's go back to that Google database, Google hacking database, and this is where we're gonna sign off, right? So here's where you can have a lot of fun. I'm not going to go really into the weeds with this because you can kind of see where this is going to go. You can find usernames and passwords by doing simple searches like these and scraping the internet. You can get really close to that thin line I was telling you about. By simply doing this, you have now entered the, in my opinion, the exciting first portion of this reconnaissance. You are footprinting these guys. You're saying, hey, I checked these vulnerability reports and found that they're vulnerable to these things. I noticed that they have this website that's kind of tucked away. It's not just out there on a regular Google search. You can find like a logon portal. You can combine these things and say, hey, with the username and password to these portals that we found, like, you can log in and do some stuff. So obviously this is for education purposes. I can't stress that enough. Admins, I'm looking at you. If you find your website out there and it is not behind a login page or something, or even if it is, there's not 2FA, MFA, some sort of multi-factor authentication that keeps these random folks out of there. Who knows, right? The internet's a big, scary place. So anywho, very quick video on Google dorking. If you guys want to see more examples of stuff like this, again, this is my first attempt of a one-off subject kind of video. So let me know what you guys think. Did you like this? Should I make more of these? Should I go back to these instructional step-by-steps? Let me know in the comments down below. Again, thank you so much for your time today. Like and subscribe, any of those cliche things that us YouTubers say, and have a good one. Thank you.